Divorce and family breakdown can take an emotional toll on all involved, but the family dynamic that is all too often overlooked is that between grandparents and their grandchildren. And it's a sad reality that if access to their grandchildren is blocked, some grandparents call this a kind of living bereavement. The problem is that unlike some other countries, in the UK, grandparents have no automatic rights to see their grandchildren, and of course, vice versa. And the reasons for the estrangement of grandchildren from their grandparents happens for a wide variety of reasons: divorce, bereavement, marital breakdown, or just a falling out between family members. But however the estrangement has come about, rarely is it anything to do with the grandchildren affected. They are the innocent victims in family breakdown. And the loss of the relationship with their grandparents is usually the result of a disagreement amongst the adults, and the children have had no say and no control over the matter. Some of the grandparents who contact me have said that being cut off from their grandchildren is like a living bereavement. And one grandparent poignantly said the grief does not have, quote, the closure or finality of death. You could be forgiven for assuming, as I perhaps did when I first started hearing about some of these cases, that some drastic event must have taken place for this kind of family breakdown to have happened. But it's often not the case. Too often the family rift arises from a simple tiff that snowballs out of control. And as one grandfather said, there is an inevitable feeling that no one cuts people off for no reason, but it can happen for the slightest thing. I have received some truly heartbreaking stories from grandparents detailing how their emotional anguish has led them to consider, and in some cases attempt, suicide. And one grandmother who considered suicide said that the only thing that stops me is hoping that my daughter will have a change of heart and let me be part of my grandson's life again. What I'm calling for is the government to explore an amendment to the Children's Act to enshrine in law child's right to have a relationship with their grandparents, specifically by adding the words "and extending family" or "and any grandparents" to the existing section on parental involvement in relation to the welfare of a child. Exactly. Not only is the law changed, I think another thing that we would be looking to, if we change the law, it also changes the culture, so that deliberately restricting access from one family member to another becomes kind of socially unacceptable. We'd all love the situation if we didn't have to be here, we didn't have to have this debate, we didn't have to have family breakdowns ending up in courts. The reality is, it does happen, so we have to deal with it. And as parliamentarians, we need to make sure that we can help the processes to be as easy and painless as possible for all those involved.